Hi, I'm Catherine Ayers-Wickenhauser from Direct Trust, and I'm so excited because today we have a special Interoperability Hero Spotlight that's also a crossover episode with the Hit Like a Girl podcast. Our special guest today is none other than Susan Clark, the health IT rock star, and I'm so excited that she's recently been spotlighted as one of Direct Trust's interoperability heroes, and am excited for you to learn more about her and her background today. So Susan, welcome. Will you please introduce yourself and tell us why you're passionate about health IT?
Sure. Well, first I have to say what an honor all of this is to do Interoperability Hero and Hit Like a Girl in one swath, because I am a big fan of both. So yay, thank you. Shout out to Joy Rios for allowing us to do this. So, but the how and the why and why I'm here and why I get up every day actually started a really long time ago. And knowing that you'd probably ask me, like, where's this come from? I was actually laughing at myself in my head because I grew up a big fan of Golden Girls. And so if anyone watches Golden Girls and knows Sophia, I want to say, picture this, Sterling, Illinois, 1991. And that Sterling Raffles Clinic. And I actually had just come back from a first year of college, not knowing what I want to do, and just needed a job, and had a friend who said, hey, you want to go to the clinic and apply for something with me? I was like, okay. And I got a job as a front desk person, which, these days they call patient access. We call them reception, whatever. And I've been in healthcare ever since then, in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's always important to start my story, because it's right at the ground level that you really interact with such a variety, understanding the patients and the providers and the whole flow of the clinic, because you're right in the middle of it all, and the pains that people can go through when the process doesn't work. So that was the part that got me. Just my brain was always like, okay, I know, everything was on paper. I know I dropped that lab order in the lab basket, yet they're calling me because the patient's there and they don't have an order. And it would just be infuriating, misfiled papers and charts. And so I have been trying to get information connected to where it needed to be for 30 years. That's a really long time, but that's truly why I do this every day, because I know it's not solved, and I want it to reduce burden on the clinical staff, the patients, and everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. And so often, so many of us have stories like that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the interoperability side of health IT. I feel like there are so many people who share a similar sentiment. I do. That one of my first jobs was filing medical records into paper charts and working in a paper chart room. And, fast forward, and here we are in the age and advent of interoperability. So I think it's so relatable, and seeing the patient experience too, and that perspective is so key to informing where we go and knowing that there's a better way.
And educating those who I know you've interacted with, people who have only academically looked at health system or economics or whatever, or technical. I have only been a computer person their whole life. That trying to bridge that in between of what the experience of the person at the other end of the very important work they do.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And, before we dig deeper into today's conversation, I want to take a second because, you've earned this nickname of the health IT rock star. And so I'm curious, what is your background? So besides, starting in this patient access kind of type of role, or, being a receptionist and seeing the healthcare journey, what other components of your background led up to this point for you to earn that nickname?
This is my fun story that I have always loved performing. I've loved dance and music and just being in front of everyone and dreaming of being famous one day. And that, once upon a time, I heard You Give Love a Bad Name by Bon Jovi, and it just said, you are going to do this. And so I went and I started playing bass guitar, and actually got a scholarship to, which was my first year of college, was in music as a bass player. But I really, really wanted to be more of a rock star than an academic musician. I found out in that first year that, not that I couldn't do it, but I didn't really love it. And so that's why I just went, well, we can't be spending all this money at this private college. Got to go home and figure out what to do next. And so that's how that started. But, so I really, but I never totally lost that dream of thinking that maybe one day I would be in a band that opened for Motley Crue, but so that's when I went home, moved job, and kind of moving forward all these years in the many spectrums of healthcare. So through 3 colleges, 2 states, many organizations. I've moved through clinical care delivery, and then managed care, and student health, and IT, and policy, and HIPAA, and I feel like I got a new dance going on. Like we can make a dance out of this. I always said I wanted to make Interoperability the musical, but we're not going to do that today. But it's still another dream. And while I was going to school and all this, I still played in band. I played in metal bands. I played in party bands. But so that was still all working in the background. But I did all of these varieties of healthcare that kind of felt like they were going all over the place but it ended up being perfectly coming together, that it's almost a symphony sort of thing, that I have all these components of writing the symphony of how they go together. And then a few years ago, as I've been acquiring all this knowledge and getting more confident in sharing it and connecting it and doing all that I thought, I still love performing. I still want to perform. Probably not going to open for Motley Crue. Heartbreak. But I went, but how do I turn this into still being my path? How do I combine my dream from teenagehood to my dreams of today? And I thought that will give me a platform to launch this. And so I came up with #HealthITRockstar. Some of our friends in the health IT marketing and social space, like I consulted with like John Lynn and Sharice, and like, how do you do this? How do you take your knowledge and really inspire people? And that's how it came to be. And I want it to grow even more if it's going to do good in the world.
And I love how you tied that, the symphony component, and so many different pieces of your background. And I think, for so many in health IT and women in general, and part of the stories that the Hit Like a Girl podcast showcases and amplifies her stories of, multiple paths converging and kind of enlightenment of, okay, there is this path forward. Everything was leading up to this. And it seems like that's a little bit of your background too, of you have all of these different components of healthcare. And we know, working in health IT, we know how disparate and sometimes disconnected healthcare is. And we're constantly trying to bridge those gaps. And so I love that idea of a symphony, bringing all of those pieces together, and how the pieces of your background kind of informs where you are today, and that rock component of it too. Like, let's do something fun and innovative with this and make sure that we amplify this message and get it into the hands of the people who need it. And I am looking
amplify on purpose, just right there.
Yeah.
I just have to call it out.
maybe I don't know, it just embedded in my mind.
Didn't mean to derail you, but that was pretty funny.
No, but I do want to hear, I am interested in Interoperability, the musical. I think I've seen that idea floated out there on Twitter before. And so yes, that needs to happen at some point. But I want to bring this back to now. So, you've talked about kind of your background and these different components, where your nickname comes from, and your wide breadth of experience, but bringing that all together. So what does that look like for you now on a daily basis? So how do you pull those components of your background together, like what's a day in your life look like?
I guess it's good that they don't match. Like there's no, I remember days you working at where you worked a queue and you knew you were going to have to code so many encounters and close them out and balance at the end of the day, and that's what tomorrow was going to look like too. These days it's all different, and I think that's the kind of the upside of when working in a consulting environment is, for the good or the bad, sometimes you're at the mercy of the contract that comes through the door because of our wonderful sales team, and they are wonderful of that, and who's available at the time it comes in. And that I have, well, when I first started with my current company, Brilliant, I came in working almost entirely for the state of Indiana. So and I still work with them on multiple aspects. So with the Indiana Family Social Services Administration. So I really was focused on state government, but there was less need coming into the summer. So I had less hours with them. And all of a sudden it was, hey, you have availability. Why don't you work on this? And why don't you work on this? And so this year I've added, I'm really focused on strategic planning for a few different things with the state data strategy, with federal scientific advancement strategy, and I think that's a really good fit for me, is because I love to do order of operations. I say I'm not a project manager. I only play one on TV, but that component is what I really love, like really breaking down what needs to be done and then giving it an order and kind of addressing it in that way. So strategic planning is a big thing that we work on. I do a lot of policy and trends monitoring. So, and then translate that back to, hey, state Medicaid, this is the part you need to care about. So when a 3,000-page rule comes out, the health IT coordinator I work with, I can have, processed it, maybe not every word, but I know what to go to because I've been doing this so long, and be like, hey, there's another interoperability thing that just came out. It was kind of buried in this Medicare rule, but it's Medicaid. And they're like, okay, let's go do it. So that's the fun stuff I do, because I feel like I'm really helping move things forward. If I could just read policy and talk about it entirely as my job, that would be my dream. So I'm trying to get there. But what else I mean, that's a lot of it. And a lot of like what's coming out with TEFCA and, new rules, and trying to stay ahead of, hey, everyone, electronic prior authorizations are coming. Let's plan for this. What do you need for funding? What do you need for resourcing? So that's a lot of my day-to-day work. But as far as my job goes, but I also am a volunteer for, I have been in, for state HIMSS, but mostly AHIMA, American Health Information Management Association. So started regional, state, and now I am the chair of the Advocacy and Policy Council, which has been my favorite role because that's my favorite thing. And that's also where I really, really learned how to influence, how to recognize that not everybody knows everything, and you can really go out there and talk to legislators and talk to just advocate for what our needs are. And that's a lot of what I do too. So whenever I'm posting on social media, I'm wearing so many hats, and it truly is authentic. Like I'm like, okay, state needs to know this, HIEs need to know this, and then, oh my gosh, my health information members need to know this. And I just trying to, I guess, do public good. Is that what we'd call it? That I want to share and get people the information they need to know.
Sure. And I mean, again, your wide background and having worked in so many different areas is so key for that. It just the different perspective that you're able to put yourself in when you're having that conversation, or when there's a new piece of information coming in, and being able to connect the dots, so key. like knowing strategy of where we go and who needs to act on this. It's huge. And I think one of the first ways that I interacted with you probably was in the volunteer setting through a HEMA. And that I think was maybe one of our first introductions. And just also how important that is. You know, there for so many people, we have our roles and we have the things that we do in our professional role and organization, but there's other opportunities out there as well. And I think you've provided a prime example of how to get involved and then how that benefits your professional role as well. You know, the professional and personal development that comes along with that. And so certainly something to encourage other people in health IT and interoperability and health information management, especially women, to get involved in.
Yeah, network is everything. I always say that when I love meeting with students too, because they're like, how do I get started? And I'm like, get involved, because that network, you know, you never know, or they're going to turn back up or give you insight or ideas or connect you to your next role. Oh, and here's
we have a guest visitor.
We have a guest. This is Cincinnati, my cat, and I couldn't do any of this without her walking on my keyboard periodically, sending emails that just have sixes and question marks in them or whatever. So that's
hopefully you have that email delay turned on. You know, quick IT tip. You know, make sure you turn on the email send delay of a few seconds. But so okay, I'm interested too. So you've talked about the professional role, your volunteerism, and how you connect the different people that you work with and the ideas and the technology and all those components, you bring them together. So your perspective is obviously huge, bringing these things together. But I'm curious, looking forward now, what excites you? What are you looking forward to? And what do you think is next? Like, what do you want to accomplish?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. I'm putting you on the spot.
Going to solve interoperability. No, I am not going to do that. It's going to continue to take more than a village. It's going to continue because of our rapidly ability isn't really the words I wanted, but the rapidly emerging technology, the way we use data, how that all works. And the more folks get connected, you know, I think of TEFCA as an example that if all goes to plan, you know, or more old show references, if the plan comes, I love it when a plan comes together, there's going to be so much information moving, and that is the kind of the impetus for that. We need so much more data governance, that organizations need to really be paying attention to where their stuff's going, who owns it, what's the consent look like. And I looking forward to things like that, improving patient matching, how we improve segmentation so that patients have more control over what goes and doesn't go, and how there's a lot to do around literacy, around sharing, that here's why we want to share your information, and the good it can do. So a lot of that is what I look forward to. I also like to say that I want no data set left behind. So that's my other thing that I get on my many soapboxes about. I feel like I can hop from soapbox, kind of like Frogger. But there are so many areas, because we tend to focus, I get into different conversations where everyone's focused about what's in the EHR in like a hospital or health system. And like, there's so much more information that we need to be connected to really help people. You know, we need more of all the long-term care, post-acute, assisted living, all of that, correctional and juvenile justice. Ambulatory surgery centers really are not, they're out there on their own, especially if they're physician owned. They don't like to see me come in and say they should have better data collection. some of the substance abuse, especially residential treatment centers, homeless management, foster care, dentists. Okay, so and my favorite, my new world that I'm living in now is genomics. So that's a big thing that can really do some good in the world. So all of these things somehow have to come together to give a better picture of a person, and then get to what interventions can we do to help them. So, and what's my other thoughts on that just, and kind of in the same vein, that we've made so much progress. I mean, you were with me on day one of when Meaningful Use first came out. We're like, what's this objectives and measure? It was, and we've come so far from that. What have EHRs become? What has certification become? And it really had, and because of the incentives and the funding that were there, got us up really high. So we got this far, but with all those other folks I just mentioned, and even still, the folks you think are connected, the folks you think are electronic, really aren't using it. And why is that? So even though we need to keep lifting the roof up, like get even better, get cooler technology, but we can't leave we got to raise the floor. These cathedral ceilings, you got to get there's cobwebs. How do you reach up there? We got to get a little closer together, so that we haven't left anyone behind. So data sets and providers and patients, we got to bring them all along with us. So, and then I guess really the future, I'm going to retire, but y'all aren't going to be without me, because then I'm going to use my skills on my own time, and maybe do a little consulting if I choose to, but also volunteer more. So how can I work with a community-based organization and give them my experience to help them, grow or partner or collaborate? So that's kind of my dream of what comes next.
And it's so exciting. Like all of these different areas that you're mentioning, and thinking about truly that reflection of thinking about how far we've come. And we've seen how far we've come in the past, I don't know, 10 years. Like to think back that it's been 10 years, and to think how much progress has been made, but yet how much more there still is to go. It's exciting that there's opportunity. There is true opportunity to make a difference and to pull these pieces together. And I love that phrase of no data set left behind, because really, trying to connect these different things and have holistic person care, that's what we're striving for. We're striving for better care, for better outcomes. That's why we do what we do in health IT and technology and interoperability and all the things. So it's exciting to hear you describe that as kind of what's next, and what other people can focus on too, and what your future plans are as well. And so, I want to bring that excitement back to your nickname, because this health IT rockstar piece is a piece of your identity. To me, that is, I think of Susan Clark, the health IT rockstar. And I want to know from you how you've embraced that. Like, tell me more about the nickname and how you've embraced it, because I think for me, this is, my outside perspective. You've brought it to not only your professional role, but also the volunteer piece. And you touched a lot on that already in pulling these pieces together, but it's become part of your, personal professional brand of being the health IT rockstar. So I want to know more about this and how you've embraced it.
It's very exciting to me that this has really become a thing. It's really that, and just I'm getting LinkedIn connection requests from international interoperability people now, like from Germany, and they're like, this is so cool. I not only am trying to connect the United States, let's go global. And that's, I think, exciting, that it could give me more opportunity and more opportunities to connect people and more opportunities to perform. So let's be so the personal, I think having done this, it's really helped keep me excited about my work and what I do, because I'm not losing those other parts of me that maybe I don't get to do as much anymore, that I can combine it all and inspire myself to get animated and get motivated. And so yeah, anytime anyone wants me to come speak, I'm probably going to do it. It's hard to say no, but the evangelizing. So I think if I can, again, it's not my day job to do all of this, a little bit, but not to the extent I want to. So I think I could grow it even more if I had the opportunity. Like how can we leverage this to get more people working together, or considering things in their organizations that would help from a ground level to support the higher level. So that's what I would like to do. But and also always learning. It's because it's overwhelming, like in my brain, like you don't all want to be in here because it's going all the time. But it makes me even more excited to keep learning and getting more connections, and how do we keep growing that?
And that's almost your superpower too, the always learning piece and the always connecting piece. So you've mentioned this throughout your background and what you do in a day-to-day capacity of these different puzzle pieces and how you pull them all together and see the bigger picture. And that's how you're able to provide this perspective. And I just love that, not only have you earned this nickname that's so unique and embodies you, but you've embraced it and you see it out on social media. I know like there've been conversations around it on Twitter, and being able to connect people and using that almost as an opportunity for people to say, tell me more about that. Like, tell me more about what you do. And it's almost an opener, it's a way to get to know people more. And so thank
It
you for sharing
was
more about that.
such an honor. I was just at the HEMA conference, and
Mhm.
I had a couple, like Jennifer Mueller is the current president. Like, it's like we were trying to connect the whole. She's like, I gotta find the health IT rock star. I gotta find, and then posted, finally found her, and it was on social media. Like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like people
Mhm.
are actually identifying with it, and how. So any tips that you or those that may listen to this want to share with me on how to leverage it even further? This is a new arena for me. How can we make it even better to do more things?
Sure. Yeah. I just think it's so great, these ideas of um, taking a subject matter, something that we enjoy, something that we're working on, and finding other ways for it to connect people. I mean, that's part of the whole idea behind the Interop Hero Initiative, was really to elevate these stories of interoperability. We frequently talk about the data and the numbers, but how is it personified? How is it real? And so you've just provided a great example of um, all of the different areas within health IT and pulling them together and seeing how far we've come and how far there is to go with interoperability and sharing of data to better help patients. And even then beyond that, team interop. You mentioned it takes more than a village to make interoperability and other health IT things happen. And that was the whole idea behind team interop, is we have different focus areas, but bringing them together, or all putting concerted effort in our individual areas, furthers our collective goal. And I think the more that we can celebrate these things like Interop Hero, like Team Interop, like being the health IT rock star, and others individual and organizational contributions to health IT, the better off we are. We so often I think we don't celebrate our progress, and we really should. We've come a long way in a short amount of time, but we also, like you mentioned, it gives us the motivation to, I think, keep going and continue to make a difference as well.
Mhm.
So, as we wrap up our conversation today, this has been awesome and really exciting to hear about your background and how you got to where you are today, and to celebrate you as an Interop hero. But I am curious, so for the people listening in, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom, anything you'd like to impart on the listeners today?
This is So fun. Something you just said was is really good, that it's the believing in yourself to be qualified to be here. That I wish it was, I think I've had people think that I'm just really confident all the time, because I get so excited and I love what I do. And I'm like, but I'm not. I look around and I go, how did I get here? Why am I in this room with these people? Do I belong here? And so we have to, especially as women, keep giving ourselves those awards. Or, I mean, even if there wasn't an Interop Hero award for me today, I have to say, hey, I've finished this outline for this PowerPoint for ONC. Like, yes, and it's going to do cool things, and you should be proud that you done or whatever. Anyway, celebrate every day. But and one of the quotes I use for myself, that when I don't give myself enough credit, or I don't know why I'm in the room, or don't know how to get to the next thing, and I can't remember who said this, and I heard it maybe on a podcast. I think it was some celebrity. It said, "Do what got you invited," and I thought that was so cool, because some days I'm like, should I be doing different? Should I be? And I'm like, this is what got me to where I am, being me. And so keep doing that. I also invite yourself to, I'm not afraid anymore that if I know there is a meeting or an initiative or something that I think I can contribute to, and they didn't think to ask me, I'll invite myself. So, and that's okay. Like, maybe they just didn't think of it. Staying curious. We've talked about that many, many times, that's what it is. If you want to know, things are going, don't settle. And also, I think I added a note to myself to say, because I just did it before we came on today, everyone should have a really good walk-up song. So you need to have a song that makes you feel like a badass before every important meeting, before every interop interview or presentation. And so that's what I do before I come on here. I'm like, today's was I Am the Fire by Hailstorm, in case you're wondering. I have a couple that go in rotation. So Formation by Beyonce is also a good one for
Oh,
the
yeah.
ladies. Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's our next step as a community, is coming together with that like walk up playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Holland Hung has done an awesome job in the past of curating hymns, mixtapes, and other things where people contribute their songs to a collective playlist. And so maybe that's one thing that we need to take away from this is building that out to amplify and amp ourselves up before some of these conversations. But Susan, this has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your background, sharing your heart, how you got here, what you think is happening next, or where you think we should go from here. And especially, I think the words of wisdom too, of inviting yourself, if you weren't initially thought of, and seeing how you can contribute. That certainly is key to ensuring we have diversity of voices and other people participating in efforts and initiatives. So thank you for that key advice. And I think, what I'm taking away is staying curious, being excited, and how we keep that going, the different things that we do, how we can continue to connect people and technology and ideas together to advance Health ID. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's like a dream come true.
And for more interoperability hero spotlights like this, check out directtrust.org/interop hero. And to hear more Hit Like a Girl spotlight interviews and podcasts, check out the Hit Like a Girl website or the Hit Like a Girl YouTube page.